you,
Thank you.
Ian.
And I'll leave this with you.
All right. So we're being recorded and we're zoomed in to Ruth and to Robin. And Allie is in Switzerland and then she's going to Germany. And I had said to her, please look at how Switzerland and Germany are handling energy efficiency and climate change.
Well, Germany announced they're shutting down all the coal plants
Right.
and replacing it.
So when the one thing is when you say something, be sure to say it loud enough so Ruth and Robin can hear us. So Zajac got home today, so I didn't know whether she was going to be here or not, but she's Allie's cohort. So I didn't know whether anybody wanted to check in before we get to the meetup. I know that Ruth went to Harrisburg last week with 399 other people.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Was it wonderful?
It was. Unfortunately, Dalen Leach was not at the office, so we met very briefly with his staffer. And then we went, in the afternoon, we went to Greg Vitale's office, and unfortunately, the legislature was in session. So I guess it's fortunate, but unfortunate for us, because we didn't get to meet with him. But we did meet with his staffer, who was very, very well informed, Connor Matthews.
Yes.
And he's from the Haverford office. So we could make a much shorter trip to see him. But he was very, very well informed about Representative Vitale's stance on the environment, and so we asked a lot of questions. He gave us a lot of information. One of the things that I asked him about, and I meant to follow up with him on this and I haven't yet, is that I know that Representative Vitale is very interested in closing down methane leaks from old wells and other sources of methane. So I asked if that was just a problem in the western part of Pennsylvania, and he said no, it's throughout. So I wanted to get back with him and see if they had any suggestions for how you could decrease the escaping methane.
Yeah, I went to the legislative hearing that he had down in Haverford Township.
Yes.
And part of the issue is they don't know where some of the wells are.
Right, exactly.
And apparently to plug them is very expensive. I could not go to Harrisburg because I was doing something else, but I did write Dalen, and I received a very nice note from him today saying he was so glad that Radnor was working on this issue and anything that he could do to support us, and he looked forward to hearing from us.
Good.
So this was for those of you who may not know, this was a Penn environment. I'll go to Harrisburg and lobby day, and they went by bus and by carpool, and I'm sure the energy of 400 people there, all focused on Ready for 100, must have been amazing.
Yes, and we were all on the steps and very crowded on the steps, and then around. It really was wonderful, and they said that we made so much noise that they had to close the doors to the Senate and to the House of Representatives. So, and actually, we had some free time in between our visits. So my husband and I went to both the Senate and to the House of Representatives to watch their working, or not working so much, but.
Well, thank you for going. Well, the purpose of this meeting is to keep going forward and to look at how you might organize yourselves. I know I've heard from Katrina, who says we're all strangers and it's all new material. So I think Robin and I I'll speak for Robin, but we met this last weekend while she was down, and she's coming home this Sunday. We're not leaving you. We are part of the team, but we are your resource. And but I didn't know whether you all wanted to develop some structure to yourselves. And so we have two ladies by Zoom, and we have us, and the decision doesn't have to be right this very minute, but there may be a way that you all might want to. Mark?
So I'm new to this business of township committees and subcommittees. So I don't know what the menu of options are. Could you suggest a structure that has worked for committees, or that could
Well,
be?
I would suggest one person who says, okay, I'll be the leader,
Okay.
so that Robin and I gathering information and being resources and working with the township, and we'll divvy that up at some point. Would say, all right, I'll be the point person.
Okay.
But we are not like any of the other subcommittees. We have a task. When we've done the task, we're done.
Good.
There were suggestions, Robin and I, Matt Holtman suggested you. I know Ruth because she's Bryn Mawr Press, and she's also very involved. I know Dan because he's Central Baptist, and he did a powerful program on plastics. Katrina has been within the township a lot. We wanted Allie and or Becca because it's the kids who are going to lead us, and they are so enthusiastic. They met once and asked us some questions, and the next thing we knew, they had made a video using faculty and kids about why we had to do Ready for 100 that I will send out again. It's a very short video.
And it's
Ruth
meeting-
Levy is our public health person with Villanova because Villanova has a sustainability department. You're getting a master's in sustainability engineering, right? And Robin is wise woman of Sierra Club. And she and I have discovered we work quite well together. So that's where we are, and the committee can be expanded.
Okay. So structure is no more complicated than picking a leader.
I don't see it any more structured
Okay.
than that. Maybe when we get into it, we may divvy up some tasks. Dan?
Sarah, I just want to confirm what the objective is of this body, this task force. We're called a task force?
Yes.
Okay. It is to finalize an RFP.
It's to finalize the RFP
Mhm.
and get it out.
Get it out.
And that's why Robin and I did a rough cut
Yep.
this weekend to simplify it. As
Thank
I
you.
said to you earlier, Westchester, Chester County has 6 governments
Right.
who have worked together before. It's very effective. So they're doing it. And they have such big firms as QVC and a lot of development right now. Montgomery County has now got 9 entities who have signed the Ready for 100 resolution. They don't have a Westchester government group, but they have themselves. The advantage to Montgomery County, and I went to a meeting 2 weeks ago up in Skippack, it doesn't really matter where it was, their planning department is quite impressive. Montgomery County has a goal by 2040 to have really unified things. There's a meeting next week.
Instead of 2050.
But this is not Ready for 100.
Oh.
This is everything else, the planning department. For instance, this meeting I went to, the planning department has dealt with lawns, changing ordinances so you can have something higher than 18 inches, stormwater, home composting, municipal composting, bees, and chickens. And they have written a very slick book, which I will get back from Bob to bring to our next meeting, on this is what each municipality, and there are 69 municipalities in Montgomery County, is big. If their municipality wants to change and come along, these are some suggestions for ordinances to help them do it. And they're doing a safe streets program so that unified through the county, the roads, the bike lanes, the sidewalks, everything will be coordinated so you don't get to a fence line and where do I go next?
But Radnor is not as extensive.
It's not as extensive, and Delaware County has not
Okay.
done
So,
this.
In a
Delaware
way,
County.
that helps us.
So, not that it helps us, and as I said to you, I wrote, Steve Clark is PICO, and Steve and I communicate a lot. And Haverford Township is going about it a little differently. Now, they happen to have a committee called HCAN, which is their plastics and their recycling and their electric vehicles and their thises and their thates. So we're going to reinvent it for Radnor.
Okay.
I did, I was on the webinar for the aggregation of Pennsylvania Municipal Solar.
Right,
And
as
so-
was I and as was Robin.
Oh, okay. So they did talk about communities kind of banding together and basically establishing, well, contracting with a company that would establish a solar farm. And then there were two ways to buy into it. One was just, basically to pay for it outright, and then the other was a virtual power purchase. But it got a little complicated. But I did take a lot of notes, and I think it's something that we should keep in mind to unite with other areas, so that we aren't just reinventing the wheel. But so they were talking about a power agreement for just their municipal buildings.
Right.
But you could include educational buildings, you could include a lot of other kinds of buildings as
Exactly.
well.
And if we
So-
can get the laws changed in Pennsylvania, it can be done for residential as well, but it's not there. But to go back to Dan's question. So I did find out that whereas Jim Wiley was properly pushing solar for a 30% tax credit, I did find out that in 2020, it's a 26% tax credit. And in 2021, it's a 24% tax credit. So, my mind, only my opinion, let's set that aside. What we need to do is teach people about solarize and the possibility, but we don't need to move there. So we have two tasks to do. One is to get an RFP out, and the other is to develop a budget to give to the commissioners, to give to Bob, to give to the commissioners when they start the process in August. And I'm not totally clear.
A budget for preparing the TFP.
Yes, the RFP, yes.
I mean, the RFP.
So those are the two things. And so Robin and I, because we heard you say, what are we doing? So we sat down and took Westchester's RFP and massaged it and dropped out some stuff and added some stuff in. It's not complete. It was as far as we got working together for about a day and a half. So one job is to continue to work on that RFP. So, because then I suspect that welcome Lisa. I suspect it then goes to Steve Norsini, and he puts it into, and he's the township engineer, and he handles the RFPs, and he'll put it into a format that Radnor uses, and then the township will publish the RFP, and we'll see what happens. When I was in
Probably go on Penn.
and it'll go on Penn Bid. One of the people that, so backing up but not, when I went to the Newtown Square EAC meeting, and they were very welcoming and they're very interested in the Ready for 100, but they're just beginning to work on it. Their public works person was there, George, who's a friend of Steve McNellis in Radnor Township. That's a good thing. They used a firm from Newtown Square to give them advice when they redid this building, and it's geothermal. It is the latest. So it's not just Cadmus, because Cadmus
Sure.
did Westchester. It may be there are some local, more local companies that do this sort of thing.
Sarah,
Sarah?
Yeah, Robin's, yes.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I mean, I just to be clear, I mean, I think that the green team will be, the township is anticipating that the green team will sort of guide the whole process of, advising on the development of the RFP and issuing it, reviewing the proposals that come through, recommending, a contractor to conduct the planning process, and then, seeing that through to fruition alongside of overseeing the community education effort that's going to be, really important to engage in the community and getting people interested and eager to see how they can be involved. So it's those are the critical first pieces, the RFP and, getting a budget proposal, but it would be the whole process.
Right.
I just think we need to sort of be clear on that.
That was my understanding based on the first meeting, that the goal of the task force was to arrive at a milestone of next Earth Day of having a plan for Radnor Township. And the things that we're talking about are the build-up steps to result in that goal. So.
And the community outreach education process, what is our goal there? Do we want them to be coming to the meeting when the RFP is presented so that the Board of Commissioners votes on it? What is that's a huge goal.
It's a great
What
question.
are we really looking?
Socialization to what end?
To what, yeah, what's the success? What's the end point?
Well, I think
I think you have a good recommendation,
right.
which is that it's in support. If the goal is to come up by next Earth Day to have a renewable energy plan for the township, presumably the next step after that is that plan gets presented to township leadership and ideally gets approved and in support of that would be building political support within the township that this kind of move is the right thing to do, and if you like it, talk to your local commissioner before the vote.
and so part of that is educating the
Right.
public.
And there's already a slide set, certainly underscoring the
Right.
environmental urgency.
Right.
And only at the end would you have a few slides having the points made in the RFP.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
the plan,
The-
not
Well,
the RFP.
No,
Uh, Yeah, but why not
The
even-
process as I
Right.
think about it, right, is that we develop an RFP,
right,
we put it out for bid.
right,
We develop criteria on how we're going to down select to the firm that we think is best.
right.
That firm then meets with us, what do you guys want? They go off and there's interaction, they build a plan. And then we, I guess, review and approve the plan. And then, I guess we present that to township leadership and say, the committee here's what we've done to date, here's the plan for getting Radnor to meet our commitments for 2040, 2050. And then I would think we would need approval from the township leadership because there's probably going to be some resources that need to be assigned to execute the plan.
Right.
And my thought is that we would need to build township support so that the commissioners vote the way this committee hopes they'll vote.
And that's the educational piece.
And the educational piece, I would suggest, needs to be aligned with the plan so
Yes.
that, there's good, in my opinion, an undesirable outcome is that residents spend energy talking to their commissioner about something that's not in the plan.
Right.
We want to make sure energy is channeled to achieve the goal.
Sarah, let me just note, I think it's important for the community to be engaged in helping to actually shape the plan,
Mhm.
so that, and certainly the planner would be interested in conferring with community residents, local businesses, the various institutions, and so that there really is a localized shaping of this plan. And that will be a lot of developing buy-in, but also there'll be, this educational effort that we can pursue through forums Ready for 100 team would be trying to help, support the green team in doing.
That way the plan, there's ownership, right, with the residents, that they accept that plan as their own because they've contributed and participated in it.
Okay, good point. All I'm saying is that I didn't know anything about RF 100 at all. And so all I'm saying is we could have webinars, we could post it on the town website, even have public speaking on what we're doing, and say, watch this space. We're going to have in 6 months' time a transition plan that we want you to be aware of, and it's going to follow these objectives about 2035 and 2050, and we'll be asking for community support when it is put before commissioners. So,
and Dan, we already have, in my mind, some steps. We have Central Baptist Church, who's working on plastics and the environment. We have Bryn Mawr Press. We have St. David's. We have Mainline Unitarian. We have the school. Some of the building blocks are there, and there are many more churches. One of the events this summer, and if I go along, it's just fun, is to go to Highland Avenue to a block party with information and just begin to talk to people, because people aren't aware of the possibilities.
So this would be like the teaser trailer before the movie gets released.
right.
And the fall festival, which has
You've got
400 or 500 people who come through. It's just
You've got a wonderful slide set showing the problem in
Right.
this area too.
Right.
So you could disseminate that now, and just with 2 slides saying what our objectives are in 2035, 2050, and do you want to help out? There. And then we flesh out what we would do to achieve those objectives.
And we can do something on 21.
and Channel 21, we have that. Here's a perfect example of people not realizing. I don't know whether, I know you all do because I sent it out. The League of Women Voters and the Radnor Conservancy on the 2nd of July are giving a program on plastics, on recycling in Radnor.
Right.
So a guy I know, very bright, couldn't come. He's on our list. Can't come because he's going to be in Maine. But he read it and he said, I never knew we weren't allowed to put our recycling in plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I've learned something today. It was like, oh, so half of it is putting this in people's consciousness.
So that we should have a whiteboard here to kind of honestly to galvanize some of our convergent thinking here. This isn't a whiteboard, is it?
Only
No.
once.
It's useless. It's totally useless.
No, I just
Honestly,
heard.
Okay.
next
yeah.
meeting we need a
probably
whiteboard
coordinate
or a
that
flip
with Bob.
chart.
I
All
second the
right.
motion.
Yeah.
Because she might be able, since the commissioners and the township have signed on to this as something that, we want to promote, she might be able to help put some framework around a PR plan. So there's a new public information officer,
By the
Molly
way,
Gallagher. She just started
remember her from the
last
cottage
Monday.
week?
So she
I
might
thought
be
she
able to
looked
help push some of the
familiar.
information out. At least, I think at the very least, a press release about Ready for 100 that we did. We voted on it, but not that many people watched the commissioner meetings.
Well, we did send out a press release, but
Okay.
it
Didn't go.
I know there was a picture.
it didn't go anywhere.
If
No,
one's
it
good,
didn't
tell
go.
her
Maybe
about it.
Molly can help.
That now we have the resources of a public information officer.
You need to coordinate that with Bob. I'm not volunteering your services, but
No.
I don't want to
I'm just a little concerned that we start going and, it's about recycling, it's about.
No, we're not doing the recycling.
Okay,
That's,
we sort of have to.
Strongly,
Right, we gotta be
Yeah.
focused.
that's the
ourselves
Conservancy and the League of Women
Okay,
Voters who do
okay.
the recycling.
Guys, I see one objective already we've talked about is public education.
Yes.
Okay, and we've talked about the possibility of having a progressive education that follows the progress of this group as we go through the RFP and forming the transition plan. Okay, so we're kind of agreeing on that. The other thing is, and also then finding advocates who would help us with public education, and I think, Sarah, you already have a list that you provided of advocates like churches, like schools.
25
Okay, so.
potential advocates.
All right, 25 advocates we get, and besides the people at this table, so. The other thing is at what point, well, what is our overall objective? The realistic objective of the RFP, let's be honest, is 2035.
Yes.
2050 depends on technology evolving to the point that you can heat your home economically with electricity, I assume. That cars
And the
are
electricity is provided by clean alternative energy, yes.
Okay.
But 2050 also includes transportation.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
We're
so-
headed for 2035, and the first thing is efficiency.
Yes, and I think the RFP needs to be more focused on that point. We have two prongs here for 2035, efficiency, conservation, and the overall transition, starting with the low-hanging fruit, I assume, of
Yes.
municipal buildings and public
Yes.
buildings, schools,
Yes.
and then to small businesses, and residences.
To this end, in the toolbox, PICO, through Steve Clark, has volunteered. He did a program for Springfield Township in Montgomery County, where he calculated all the electrical use, energy use in the township for the municipal buildings, to calculate the carbon footprint.
Yes, you have already that in your.
And that's being presented to the Board of Commissioners, so it's a public meeting in September.
So a lot of the work for the consultant.
It's
being
already done,
It's being done.
yes.
Does that include
So that's
schools?
municipals
Does that
and
include,
schools.
yeah,
No, it does not include the school, and there is a challenge, is to get the school district to come on board to provide their electric account numbers, electric bill account numbers to PICO, who will do a heat map and a total analysis of the 5 buildings for the school district for free.
when you say challenge, is that because you anticipate resistance, or just because it's something that needs to get done?
Because I have spoken to the president of the board 4 times.
Okay.
And,
oh, it's a wonderful idea. So somehow
Did you go to a board
we need
meeting?
to get
Board of
the,
Education meeting?
well, it has to go through the facilities committee first. So it's just a question. Bob said he would reach out to the superintendent. I've reached out to the board president because she's a friend. It's just whatever's gonna take that final push, which takes, all it takes is the account numbers. So maybe when this happens in September before the Board of Commissioners, that shows everywhere where Radnor runs up an electric bill, and this building is the key one. It's $90,000 a year for the electricity for this building. And PICO says they can lower it by 30%. And that'll be 30% going forward. So there's some changes and they've outlined, and that's in your toolbox. The zip drive I gave you is all that. So we're not trying to move ahead of you, but it is moving
Right.
down the line and we need to streamline it for Radnor.
Well, Sarah, you had sent us an RFP that actually came today, and I
Yes.
wonder if we could just take a look at that, because I think it really addresses a lot of the things that we're kind of talking about here. Did you get this?
Did
Yes,
So
it
it
I
was
might
sent
have
here
gotten it,
today.
but did I review it? I may not have.
Yes, Robin and I worked on it over the weekend, and then we finalized it as much as we've gone last night, and sent it out today. So it may be a little premature to do it tonight. There are a few things that need to be done. We need to find out how many square miles is Radnor and what percentage of it is open space. It doesn't sound very difficult, but, and DVRPC, and I will send you the link to it, they have, it's effective 2015. And-
Sarah?
Yeah?
This is Robin. I just wanted to note, I mean, we didn't expect that people would have been able to pour through
No.
it, you know, by this evening. And that it is important, I think, for everybody to have a chance to do that. You know, I think there's a shared sense that we do need to really emphasize efficiency from Radnor. And so, you know, folks can look at that in particular and see if they feel that, you know, it's emphasized enough, or does it need more, and how to bring that in. I guess I would just, you know, if some folks haven't had a chance to look at it, their views are going to be important to moving forward.
Right. I think the RFP as written is not organized enough and focused enough in breaking out the transition component from the efficiency and conservation component. And if you wish to emphasize more than other RFPs, the conservation and efficiency, then that needs to be more prominently and separately discussed, because it can be addressed with current infrastructure. In the meantime, before you start switching over to green energy.
Dan,
You
so
could just
would
put in a statement that says, you know, the offerer shall account in their technical approach for both both aspects of it, right? Using less and the energy that you
Right.
do use, transitioning to renewable. So I think
Yes.
you could put in language in the requirements.
Right.
And that could be among the criteria that we use to downselect.
Yeah.
So is that a task that the team would begin to be in dialogue with each other and develop the document? We just did just something to
Well,
put
my
the foot in the
previous
door.
life was writing regulatory documents
Aha.
for the pharmaceutical industry. And my key thing is reduce the number of words, keep it focused and organized. And I'd be more than happy, without stepping on too many toes, to go through this document and reorganize it, make it a quick draft and send it to you and see if you can stand my changes or not.
Fabulous.
Perfect.
Fabulous.
All right.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big step.
Because I think we all, I think, should agree that there has to be bite-sized pieces that we go forward in doing, and it's quite obvious. We already talked about education, public education, laying the groundwork for the political task, as well as eventually residences switching over, but also the getting stakeholders on board. That is something that is going to be our job, I would think, more than the consultant's job.
Right.
And so we should be, I think, at least in that RFP, let them know that we are going to be working with them and working with municipal government, schools, businesses, and
So
ultimately
do
residences.
you see that as sort of a letter of introduction of, this is who we are, this is our goal, we invite you, whoever it is, Hilltop School just came off the top of my head, we invite you to come along, to craft some kind of a communication, and the township is allowing us, they're helping us with printing and with some
Yeah.
of the steps we need already, so
Right.
to make them all aware. I mean, I understand an article in the paper, if I could get
Right.
it in, would be great, but we don't know that everybody reads the mainline media news anymore, because newspaper is not working.
We've
So,
been just up on the township website.
and on the township, well, some people look at it, some people don't.
Well, if you share it out, like John has a newsletter, I
Right.
have a newsletter, Commissioner newsletter. I know that Jake has one.
Every commissioner does.
Does Rich have one?
Yeah.
Does he? Oh,
I'm sure the consultant firm has gone to stakeholders before, but we need to identify people and actually maybe just give them the heads up that we are doing this, so they're not blindsided. So identify the people in the office. Which,
So how about, here's more mail for you. I have the list on my computer. I will shift it out, and people who have a connection to certain entities can say, I'll take that, because a letter plus a face-to-face, we're really committed to do this, and it's that personal invitation business that gets it past the secretary at the school or the church. And we can begin to divide up that list. We know that Penn Med is interested. We know that Mainline Health is interested. We know that Brandywine is interested. They're all part of this ultimately. So it's a question of educating on a big scale and then on a residential buy-in
It kind of
scale.
dovetails with education,
Yes.
but it's also two-way.
Yes.
They will educate us as to what they think they can do
Exactly.
financially and logistically, and
Right.
what they can't do.
And I just wonder
Can I
whether
just-
we
Can,
might.
can Ruth jumping in?
Yes.
Welcome, yes.
Because I'm having a hard time hearing people who are far away from the computer. I think the discussion is that before we finalize an RFP or before we move forward, you want to include more voices from the township. Is that correct?
No, that, it's just that, I think a lot of things have to go in at the same time, that because we're on a tight timeline, we have to get our stakeholders aware of what we're doing and just give them a heads up at this point. When we finalize the RFP this summer, it honestly should be sent to them and say, we very much want you to be involved in our formation of a transition plan with our consultant.
So after we finalize this document, we would have a period of open comments for the community?
Yes, I think we need to get.
I just want to make sure I'm following. Okay.
Yeah, some first blush reaction back to us, saying this is a great idea, or we can only go so far without a lot of money, or just so we understand the landscape for getting the initial 2035 objective, even at just the municipal and public building level, if not businesses and residences.
And I wonder whether we should also have maybe more people in this community effort, more people who have connections, say, with the school, who can be good advocates and are willing to be out in the public for us, because we're not going to be able to do it all. And I do think Sarah's correct in that if we have a connection, if somebody has a connection, I don't have any connection with the school, but somebody who does is going to know where to go, who to talk to. So I think we ought to be thinking about people who would be assets in that department on this green team. I have somebody that I'd like to suggest. Her name is Mary Coe, and she's a recently retired lawyer with the EPA for 20, 30 years. I don't know, she's been there forever. Smart lawyer, very dedicated to this cause, very in touch with the township, has been involved in many community efforts, and I think she'd be a terrific addition to this committee.
Currently serving on the Parks and Rec Board.
Yeah.
That's under 3A on today's agenda.
Yes. Did I jump ahead?
No, I think you're right on track.
Yeah, I just think all of us should be thinking about people that really will serve and work and be good advocates in the community.
And we're still reaching out to the Wayne Business Association.
Yeah.
I spoke to Chris Todd in this room 10 days ago, and I'm waiting. So we need somebody who knows Chris better than I do, or goes to eat at Christopher's all the time or something, to get someone from that board. It's important to have them, and it's important to reach out to them. And we knew what we ended up with, the 6, was not the size that we wanted it. We wanted up to 10 people. So if anybody has some thoughts, let's put some thinking caps on. I don't go out for dinner, so I'm not a very good advocate.
Do we accept this recommendation?
Well, John knows Mary. Well, Sarah knows Mary.
Mary was also one of the founders of Friends of Radnor Trails. And
Yes, co-CEO. She lives in South Wayne,
Yeah.
and she's just a very smart, articulate.
And she's also interested.
Yes, she is interested, because I asked if she would be interested.
Sounds like a lot of the criteria being met.
Yeah.
So guys, I see summer's lousy for having meetings, but getting these advocates, quasi-stakeholders, in a separate meeting, just again, put our concrete ideas past them, starting with an RFP, and just, what do you think? Tell us what you think. Is this doable? And
Can you speak up a little bit, Sarah?
yeah, is this doable? I mean, this, and clearly these, if they are on board, they can support the public education effort as well, which we don't want to be public educating everybody without having the stakeholders already aware and on board with what we're doing. So I just thought of that we may want to get our stakeholders and get their reactions ASAP, to be
All right,
honest.
so my assignment is to get the list of the people we had previously identified, institutions, churches, schools, businesses, to get that to you, and then we'll formulate a letter, and people who know people will reach out. I mean, I've got Dr. Richard Tolan is with Mainline Health, and he and 4 other physicians are bringing this whole Ready for 100 thing to the whole Mainline Health institution. And he has said to me, I want to hear from you. Just want to hear from you. What are you doing? I will pass it on. Mainline Health is waiting to hear what the American Heart Association says. Well, that's just, that's part of the deal.
but meanwhile, the physical plant, the vice president is a lady named Joanne Magnotti,
Right.
who I've dealt with frequently. And I'd be glad to reach out to her.
All right.
Right.
And we'll just,
And Paul Eucools is the HR VP.
right.
I'm
It's the
glad-
school
I'm
district.
glad to talk to the school district.
Would you talk?
Sure.
So this would be the deal, Lisa. As PICO did for the township, for no cost whatsoever, PICO will prepare heat maps and suggestions for the 5 buildings. All they need is a release with the PICO accounts.
So we need to get that piece of paper. the
That's
release,
what- that's
so
what-
that she can present
That's
it.
what Steve Clark, and I can, we'll arrange that. Steve Clark needs the accounts, and then he creates the heat maps, and he and this Mark Binder, who I have not yet met, look at it on first cut, show where the school district can become more efficient and the conservation to have a significant change. That's all we need,
Okay.
is a release from the school district with the PICO account numbers.
All right, I'll talk to Susan and see. I'm glad to go to a facilities meeting and.
I have tried,
Yes.
but I've
Okay.
not gotten any.
All right.
Thank you,
I think
Lisa.
who cares facilities right now? I think it's Mike Miller.
Isn't PRC doing some of this? Pennsylvania Resource Council, Butler, and those.
They're working on another aspect. I mean, Penn Environment's working on it. Clean Water's working. I mean, everybody is working on their piece of it to bring it to fruition. It's just getting it all together. And it started very small. We now have 7 in Chester County, 9 in Montgomery County. Philadelphia County has never passed a resolution, but they're already working on it dramatically. We have 2 in Delaware County. And we're hoping with the election, if the election goes the right way, things may change in Delaware County. Mike?
I have a ground rules and assumptions question. When the 2050 goal is renewable energy for all uses, does that include vehicles?
Yes.
Transportation
So
and heat.
do we have ready hand, like, how many buses the school district has, how many police cars the township has, like, how many vehicles the
We
township
can pull
operates?
that very quickly.
And maybe that's the consultant to do.
So is that something you'd want the school district to supply as well, or?
If they would like
Not
to.
right now.
Or is that-
Step 1 is
That's what the
getting
consultant
Getting
get paid
that.
the
for.
heat
If we can do
maps.
that, you'll be happy. Okay.
That's the consultant's job, right?
Yes.
Well, they have students, right, that are engaged in this, and Becca.
Well, Becca and Allie, and Allie's in Switzerland and then going to Germany, and Becca is coming home today.
Okay.
But they've asked to go to the facilities committee
Okay, well,
also,
maybe
so
I'll coordinate with her, with
Right.
them, and maybe we can.
see if we can't
do a-
nudge them
Yeah.
into the game.
Mhm.
A key step, yeah, it seems, is just getting the school district on board and being communicative and willing to participate.
Right, right. And I think once they see this data that PICO provides, they'll go, wow.
Was Bob gonna share that with Ken?
Yes, he was going to talk to Kim.
All right, I'll ask Bob as well.
And you all have, because it's in that zip drive, you all have those heat maps and the suggestions, and some of it is very low fruit.
Yep.
Some of it's very easy.
Yep.
And PICO can prove now what it's going to cost to make the changes in this building. That we haven't figured out yet. But PICO says they can lower the electric bill by 30%, save 30 grand a year.
Maybe if we made our meeting shorter, I would say so.
Well, the cooling
Commissioner
you
meetings,
need
not
to
this
take
one,
care of the hot
commissioner
air.
meetings.
Well, and
I
but
keep trying to get them to turn the air up too, because it's freezing down there.
it is, and that's part of the issue. I don't know whether you're aware of this,
Male
but
and
the
female.
heat and the air conditioning are
Hey,
both
careful.
on all the
No,
time.
it's true, it's true.
It's just who has the upper hand.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I
Men
saw
tend to
Jane
turn
Lowell was
it down.
freezing last night. I texted Bob. I'm like,
It
can you
was
turn the air up?
so
For
cold.
Jane, she
Yes.
was freezing.
No, they've
That's
been
the way I
studied.
stay awake.
See, the men want it cold, and the
Yes.
women want it warm.
Right. So,
So, yeah, where are we going from here?
well, we're talking low-hanging fruit again. In
Yes.
terms of the 2035 objectives, going electric, clean electric. We're talking about municipal buildings, public schools, maybe large businesses like Mainline Health, who have all have the budget and the concentrated use of power.
And medicine.
And Penn Medicine.
Well, the largest business in Radnor is Villanova.
Okay, schools, yes.
And
Ruth?
Aren't they already on board?
Well, they have a sustainability department. I hope I don't step on Ruth's toes. I went to the meeting, and it seems to be students and faculty on one side and administration on the other.
As
So
usual.
they're making steps. Liesel's, they're doing little things. It sounds innocuous, but they had no
New
plastics
lights.
for Lent, and they educated the
lights.
kids.
LED
LED
lights on the
yeah, new
stadium.
In the stadium.
And the
Yeah, that's-
stadium-
That's huge.
Oh, it is, that'll pay for itself.
What'd you
in 3
say,
years.
Ruth?
We are painfully and embarrassingly slow. Like, it's disgraceful. I just now say it out loud and publicly. So, yes.
But examples like hopefully Mainline Health will encourage other institutions to come on board. But these are still low-hanging fruit for the 2035 objectives. The more challenging ones are the small businesses, I would imagine, with limited budgets and residences. And Sarah, you said that neither of them can batch the purchase of renewable energy. Is that true?
Businesses and businesses could work with municipalities to aggregate.
Okay. But residents can't?
Not yet, not till they change the laws in the state of Pennsylvania, which they're working on.
They are working.
Very hard they're working on.
Who's they?
They is the voters to their representatives. And you have to get a certain number of sign-ons in a bill, and it's got to be done within a certain length of time, otherwise the bill ends and they start all over again.
I see a little mini task force of RF-100 that we should talk to our other RF-100 folks and see how energetic that effort is in Harrisburg or wherever.
Right.
To get this passed.
Right.
Because it's a key component of 2035.
Right. But every little bit helps.
Yep.
Every step.
Yep.
You looking at who's going to be your provider, what you're going to set your thermostat at, are you going to use air conditioning, what are you going to do it? Combine that with,
Yeah.
we've got 30,000 people, you make a significant change, which is conservation and efficiency.
Right.
And I'm talking to PICO right now. You can have an energy audit. This is low-hanging fruit, but this is getting people, oh, I could
Yes.
save money. $25 audit, $40 to $50 worth of LED light bulbs,
Yep.
suggesting what to do. Part of going to Highland Avenue, and I'm talking to PICO about what is the level where we can, get a free energy audit for people who really need a free energy audit, or what would happen if we had 150 people sign up for an energy audit? What would PICO charge?
Right.
And then everybody makes a change. It's very small steps. And then when they see their energy bill go down, they've got a few more bucks in their pocket. It speaks.
So we should hire you as a consultant.
No, I'm just your cheerleader, and I'm doing it myself in order to
Sure.
prove to myself it can be done.
Yep.
So I would not be discouraged. So what I'm hearing is Dan's gonna take the RFP and play with it and tweak it and share it with the committee.
All the invitees, yeah.
Lisa's gonna help us by trying to get us the foot in the door with the school district.
Do you want me to go down right now? They're having their business meeting.
John, we're gonna talk to Bob about having the new information officer, and she was putting stuff up on Facebook last night.
Yeah, so that's the other piece is social media. And one of the things you might be better, instead of just putting out a press release saying, oh, this is ready for 100, blah, 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 here's what we're doing, it would be good to focus on, people that are already doing things, like, whatever you all are doing, or maybe one of the businesses, like, I don't know, was Penn Medicine installing things that are,
Yeah, are they going for LEED certification?
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
so that kind of thing. I mean,
Oh, but.
if the school
Trying-
district
Yeah, full.
does
Well,
this
we
energy
just
survey,
leave-
maybe the putting out the information around the energy survey and what the
Right.
township is going to do about this
Right,
building to
exactly.
reduce that. Maybe that's the story instead of like
Here
ready
we
for
are, this is
100.
what we're
Like what
doing.
are the action, like the real actionable items that are happening around this, and people are like, oh, yeah.
That's right.
Now we have to get the Parks Department to use goats instead of gasoline.
I've been trying to get Bob to do that for a while.
It sounds, go ahead.
With the RFP, because it is hard in this forum, even if I was sitting in that room to kind of wordsmith it together. So how about we put it in something like a Google Docs and work on it there, because then we can all put comments and kind of see where we're headed.
Okay,
And
could I-
before we come back to the
Could I
next
ask
meeting.
somebody to do that, please? Put it into a Google Doc?
Yes.
Well, if you do it, then.
I've never done it before.
Well, are you
It's
going
not,
to use
no, it's
Word?
great,
Yeah,
but the
Word.
only issue
Yeah,
is,
suck it right
it's
in.
not the most secure, so if you have some crazy Russian that's interested in Radnor Township,
Okay.
plan, it may be a problem, but I don't worry about that too much.
All right.
Robin, are you still here?
I'm here, and I think that's great. One thing that's helpful with Google Docs, you know, where there's a group that's editing a document, is to use the comments function. So, you know, if you have alternative language to suggest, you can put it in a comment, and that way, you know, you're not sort of striking what somebody else has written and disappear. So it just,
Great,
you
thank
know,
you.
it's sort of helpful for everybody's thoughts to be recorded.
So Robin, would you put it up in a Google Docs and send the link?
Yeah, and then you have to invite everyone. And Robin, I'll send you, because you have to use my Gmail address. My Villanova doesn't work for it, so I'll send you my email.
I propose that Dan gets a shot at it first.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, and that will then go out to
Right.
all of us.
So if Robin will put it up
Otherwise,
into
it's just
Google Docs and
free for
issue
all.
the invitation, then Dan will go first crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
Sarah, I just wanted to note, I mean, it sounds totally great to have Dan, you know, sort of do a deep dive. I'll just note that the Westchester RFP, you know, was successful in
Yes.
engaging a number of firms, and they were successful in landing a
Right.
planner.
Yes.
So, it, you know, at least some parts of it work in general.
Right,
Yes,
Not that it's right for us.
yes.
agreed.
Yes, I understand that I am coming in here kind of cold, so
Guess what?
We'll keep
We
it
all
right.
are.
well, yes, but people have already put a lot of work into this document. I don't want to.
And it
disregard
will
their effort.
eventually have to go to Steve Norsini in the township
Okay,
to be final tweaked. But if you will dive in, we'll all see it, read it, make comments. That's a big step forward.
That's great.
And Lisa's gonna talk to the school district, and I'm gonna send you the list of potential stakeholders, and
okay.
we've made great strides. Now, do you think we need a fearless point person, or do you want Robin and I to continue to be the point people?
I don't,
Would somebody volunteer?
I would be happy to have you and Robin continue. I think we need to get to know each other a little bit better
Yes.
before
Alright.
somebody jumps in.
Any other opinion?
Well, I just wonder, an agenda is helpful, and you and Robin came up with this agenda. So maybe, I don't know how you feel about that, but having an agenda, and maybe we can hone it down. This is just more than we can deal
Oh,
with.
well, we've dealt with
We've
most
dealt
of
with
it.
some, yeah, but,
The only thing we haven't dealt with is the next meeting.
well, communication, how are we communicating between each other?
Yeah, do you guys want to do it through email, through Slack? I did send you all an invitation to look at Slack. And you have Google Docs.
I prefer email, but I'm old school.
Isn't that something? Calling email old school.
Well, when you got Slack and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google Docs, I mean, I've been retired 10 years, so things move fast.
Well, let's not worry about that. We'll communicate via email, and
I'm good with email.
we'll just continue to pull it together.
But to Katrina's point, when Radnor formed the EAC, I was the first chair of the EAC. And what I did for agendas, I had all the members send me emails
Right.
with agenda suggestions or areas they thought we needed to talk
Okay.
about first. So you all could do that too.
Can I do things backwards here and actually each of us introduce ourselves with our credentials in this area or lack thereof? Just so, if only for my purposes, because I know a lot of you know each other already. I'll start off again. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a physiologist by training. I go to Central Baptist Church, and that's how I found out about this. But I know have no experience in energy or energy transition or municipal government.
But,
But I'm a concerned citizen.
And I'm Katrina Ogilvy. I am also a concerned citizen. I've been active in the township. I have no energy background in the least. I just, and I'm interested, that's all.
and you're a lawyer by training. And a coach.
Yes,
And
but no
serve on
energy
the board.
background.
So I'm Ruth Mooney, and I'm a retired nurse, and I've been interested in all things health related, and the environment is certainly very much health related. And so over the last couple of years, I've just been trying to educate myself on what kinds of things we can do, reading various resources, listening to different people with different ideas and that kind of thing. And so I'm very much a concerned citizen, and we just have to do this.
Well, you've had experience, or at least at the meeting level, with people in this area.
Well, so I've gone to the commissioners' meetings. I've spoken out at the meetings. I've lobbied.
And
tried
you
to
were head
lobby
of your condo
politicians.
board. So you were head or your husband was head of your condo?
My husband is the president of the condo association. You know, everybody on the condo association knows me and on the board, and they respect me, and so I work in the condo association. Basically, I chair the gardening committee, so we do a lot with the planning. So, which I think is a very important part of conservation.
Yep.
So, so I do have the ear of the condo association.
And when you lobby, what were you lobbying for?
Well, initially, I was lobbying for healthcare, and so recently, in going to Harrisburg, we went to lobby for the environment. We didn't get to meet with the representatives, but we did meet with their staff.
Mark?
Okay, so I've got a career in aerospace engineering and management, so I think I understand the planning and tracking and execution of projects and developing RFPs and proposals. And in my spare time, I am, as a concerned citizen of the world, I am trying to develop an academic background in training and sustainability.
Great.
Trying to put my engineering skills to a different use.
Ruth?
Hi, I'm Ruth Jarmett-Levy. I am associate professor at Villanova University College of Nursing, where I teach primarily public health courses. I'm also the director of the Center for Global Public Health. My research has been about the health impacts of fracking, as well as health concerns, particularly healthcare providers with climate change. So that's kind of the area that I work on. I spent a lot of time working on. And I've also done some policy things, you know, gone to Washington, gone to Harrisburg, written op-eds and those sort of things. So, and I'm a member of Radnor meeting, so there's another.
See, there's another connection.
Represented.
Robin?
I'm primarily a Sierra Club volunteer, and I've been involved in over the years in our policy-related energy as well as climate and but other areas as well. But I don't have expertise. I'm just very interested in the issues and you know, really passionate about seeing us make progress.
Okay, so that's the cast of characters at the moment.
Yeah, I'm the 5th Ward Commissioner, John Nagel, but I come to this for the energy background. I worked for PICO and public service and did consulting. Mostly worked in the nuclear business. But when we formed the EAC, I was the first chair. I was on Parks and Rec for 13 years. Katrina was on Parks and Rec. And I chaired that for 3 or 4 years. And I've been a commissioner for 10 years, and I'm wrapping up. I'm not running again. And Robin and I worked 20 years ago on the field treatment. We did away with chemical treatment of our playing fields. That was a big change we got made. And the EAC, when I was on it, started the composting program where you can go to the various parks and get compost. And also wind energy. Radnor's actually been using renewables for 20 plus years. There was a small period a couple years ago where we stopped, but we've since reinstituted that.
So you mean the municipal buildings?
Yes.
It's called Constellation.
Constellation Energy. Yeah.
Which
It
I
was
did-
Green Mountain before.
Okay, but I did find out we're on a month-to-month customer for Constellation. I did
Yes.
not sign a long-term contract. So, and that is also what Haverford Township uses, so that's part of this eventually pulling together and having more entities. But we're still in the phase of gathering information. Well, you know me, I'm Sarah, and I am a horticulturalist by training, although I was a physiologist by training first. But I'm just passionate about what's happening to the earth. And I have a son who's a marine ecologist for NOAA until Friday. He's leaving government. And so I just am very concerned about how our earth is changing and how it's affecting us. And do I know anything about energy? No. But I drive a hybrid.
Township's getting its first hybrid.
Yes.
Bill?
Police car.
The bill goes to Central Baptist Church, right?
That'll be it.
I met Bill and Dan when they did a wonderful 7-week session on plastics
And
this last
and
week.
trash.
And trash.
Recycling.
So please come on the 2nd of July,
Yes.
because the financial figures of what it's costing the township right now is coming out. And it's going to be very interesting. And Haverford Township's coming, Lower Merion Township's coming to be there. There are a whole bunch of Ready for 100 people who have jumped on the opportunity to be part of this talk on plastics
Is
and
it going to be
recycling.
recorded?
Yes, it's going to be downstairs, so it's going to be videoed. So that was one of the pushes, so that it would be available afterwards. People can watch it on YouTube.
Right.
We are making progress. There's a lot of sort of walking together, side by side, not necessarily converging right now. I think eventually the convergence will become closer and closer together. And I just appreciate you all being a part of this, because it seems sort of, I don't want to use the word fragile, it's in its beginning steps.
Oh, and we also have people out there that don't believe in it.
Right,
And unfortunately, at least 2 of them are commissioners.
right.
So we're dealing with that too.
Well, I'd like to talk about the education a little
All right.
bit. Because I know
Have
that
fun, folks.
I know that there are slide decks available, and I think that's really a very valuable resource. We don't want to have to try to duplicate that, because that really takes a lot of energy and effort. But I think that each one of us has to sort of have our elevator speech ready, so that we can tell people about, not necessarily about climate change, but we can, maybe we could talk about, the forest fires or all the flooding in the Midwest, and the impact on the farmers and that kind of thing, flooding, all of those kinds of things. But I think we all should be able to talk about how we think people, both as individuals and as communities coming together, can help to, if not reverse the trends, at least keep us from getting to that tipping point where there is no no turning back.
Yeah.
So I think we ought to, kind of think about that and maybe help each other out with our elevator speeches, so that you can grab people wherever they are and talk to them.
I'm sort of, we come from more of an evangelical idea about the world facing a tipping point. A lot of people aren't. They're looking at what's in it for me.
Right.
What are the dollars and cents? And
Mhm.
I think we need to be really rounded.
Yes.
And
Right.
not be talking about fire and pestilence all over the world. I just think we need to be really practical about this.
Yes.
And I would love to, I don't, did I get those slides? I don't know. I'd like to see whatever education pieces are.
I don't. Who has the slide deck, Dan? I know Dr. Tolan does.
Well, the ones I saw were from not Chester County, but Newtown Square, Newtown
The
Township.
Bill Sabies.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
So if we could get
So
those.
I have that on my computer, so I will
Great.
send
Okay.
the slide deck to you.
Terrific,
Right.
terrific. And anything else that's out there that everybody knows about,
Right.
that we, collectively should.
Now, Bill Sabies was very good. It's more focused on, well, it was tailored for Newtown Square. I will ask Bill if he would consider changing it a bit to focus it more on Radnor and Delaware County. See if he will do that.
I just wanted to foot stomp what Katrina said, because I think a lot of us here, are very evangelical about the need to save the planet. But at the same time, technology and advancement in renewable energy has come to the point where it doesn't have to be, well, I need to do the right thing, but it's going to cost me more. I mean, at utility scale, it's cheaper now to generate electricity through wind and solar than traditional forms. So, for those that maybe don't want to sign up to do the right thing, we could say, hey, how would you like to pay less money for your electricity? How would you like to save $30,000 a year in your tax money for this building alone? And who knows what the schools will, what opportunity there is there.
And that should be
So if
part
we
of
make
the
it dollars and
elevator.
cents,
Yeah, part of the elevator speech.
make them say no to
Yeah.
Right.
spending less, right?
Right.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Following on that, I think this is a very important thing, is that ultimately we should have a big package and a small education package. And addressing the 2 points you guys brought up. And also with URLs, where to go to get more information.
So we're going to develop a toolkit.
Well,
Education.
education.
We have a lot of that.
Public-
It's a question of pulling it together.
Yeah.
Both public education and stakeholder education, I guess. Background education.
Right.
Yeah, just to get back, because a concern I have is what the gentleman said as he left. There are going to be folks in the community that, cannot be convinced that, the CO2 levels rising, are meaningful. But, so the counter to that is to put them in a position where they're, okay, whatever your belief in science, I'm going to give you a discount on electricity. Say no to that, right?
Yep. Yep.
So hopefully that's a foolproof way to capture the people that are evangelical in the township,
Yes.
and the people that are, are willing to accept a cut and expense.
And that's why this residence batch purchase bill
Ultimately,
is
that
so critical.
will be very critical.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It looks like, from the webinar that Ruth participated in, and I was there too, till it got too complex. This company that happens to be located in Wayne, who is building solar farms, they're guaranteeing for the next 10 years 4.3 cents per kilowatt hour, which is about as low as you can get. So that's the goal. Now we have two prongs. We have people who want to do it, and we have government that says it's okay. And right now, Pennsylvania State being the fossil fuel state. It's an uphill push, but it can happen, which becomes the advocate for every person who votes. Is they bombard their reps to say, we really want this. I mean, the groundswell can make it. It's just a question of getting the ground to swell. And it isn't going to be accomplished on day one. It may take 5 years till we get, I mean, one of the goals that one of the other groups is doing is to increase the number of people who do an energy switch, to have it 10% of the residents do it per year. That's not an enormous goal. It's measurable, it's attainable. It's teaching them that this is a possibility and offering them the support so they can do it, and having them see that it makes a difference. So it's not monster steps. And the first, I think, in efficiency is for this township building. We know PICO estimates they can save 30% of the bills. They used over 1 billion kilowatt hours last year. And you have those heat maps. It's on that zip drive I gave you.
Yes.
So it'd be worth sort of look. It's Sulpizio, it's Public Works, and it's the township building. And it'd be interesting for you to just take a look at it and look at some of the things they're talking about.
I can't wait to hear what the school district.
I can't.
I'm very anxious.
So am I. Well, if Lisa can get our foot in the door, that will be a good thing. I'm not saying they were resistant, but they got a lot of stuff that they're dealing with that this isn't has not been a high priority.
Sarah, is there an actual bill that they're trying to put before the Harrisburg legislature on this?
Aggregation?
Yeah.
Let me get that information and send it to you. I think there is a House bill and a Senate bill.
Right. It could be something we actually.
Well, you should know about.
can-
Ruth, have you got anything final you'd like to say? Except that you're on Martha's Vineyard. Oops, we can't hear
We lost
you.
your audio.
We lost your audio.
She on mute.
We can't hear you.
I am working. I've only been to the beach probably a total of 4 hours in 3 weeks.
Oh, all right.
I'm writing a lot.
Oh, all right. So do you have any final words before we say goodnight?
No, I think, I'm looking forward to working on the document. When are we meeting again?
Well, that's
There's the last
That's the
thing.
last thing.
July?
Sometime in July, towards the end of July?
in July.
I will not be here.
Well, we've got Zoom.
Well, that's
So
true.
what?
I'll be somewhere between here and the West Coast.
They're talking.
So we're not meeting again till August?
Well, I'd like us, if we could, the end of July.
Yes.
That's quite a ways away, the end of July.
Right? Can we do it
How about the ni-
mid-July?
How about the 9th, 2 weeks from tonight?
That's good.
I may or may not be able to do that. I don't know.
Can we do you via Zoom?
Possibly, but I'm not going to commit that.
July 9th is the plan?
That's what we're talking about. Those of us who can meet, will meet.
Here?
Okay.
Here.
I'm traveling home that day, and I'm not sure what my ferry is, but if I'm in town, I will be there.
All right, great.
I mean, are we wedded to a Tuesday? Going to be plus or minus a day, if it's more convenient for others?
I was trying to hit a 2-week window because my concern is momentum is a lot. And
Yes.
if we wait for another month.
No, I agree.
Well, could you do it Wednesday the 10th?
Would that help, Ruth?
Would that help you, Ruth, to do it the day after you come home?
Yeah, the 10th from the same time, 6:30 to 8.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, we're doing it the 10th.
okay,
And if anybody needs to be on Zoom, let me know.
yes,
I will be out of town.
All right.
still.
Sarah, I think you should go
Does
ahead.
Monday get better,
I'll
or
note,
is it-
I think I have to be elsewhere on that evening, but sounds like you've got a critical mass.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for zooming it.
So what time?
6:30.
Is Monday better? The 8th?
I'm out of town.
Are you the whole
My
week?
daughter's getting married just
Oh,
right there.
unacceptable.
A house full of people. I don't know.
You can't zoom in.
I-
All right, the 10th of July.
Yeah, okay.
That's good.
And we'll move ahead. We'll get,
Well,
we'll get the,
so
yeah.
shall we send, if we have ideas for an agenda item?
Yes.
Send them to you?
Send it
Okay.
to me.
Great, great.
Okay?
In the meantime, you'll
Thanks
see
so much.
my
Thanks,
draft.
everyone.
Have a good time with the baby.
You say it over Steve.
Bye.
Yes, you are.
Bye-bye.
You are.
Things in there.
All right, we also have this meeting recorded.
Oh, God, really?
You didn't understand that?
Thanks for the reminder.
So I didn't, it was hidden under a piece of paper. This is the kind of heat map
Yeah, I was
that
taking a look.
comes. This is, happens to be the library.
Uh,
So this is a brand new building. This is supposedly very good. So it's almost a year's worth, midnight to midnight. So of course you want it dark.
Green is good, right?
Green is good, then it's yellow to orange to red. And so this was in the heat of last
Yeah,
summer.
I'm guessing the red is air conditioning.
And that's what, so Annie LePay and I met and we talked about it. And the suggestion was that she look at what the air conditioning was set at,
Mhm.
lower it a degree.
Mhm.
See if anybody complains. If they don't complain,
Will the frog, right?
just, you know, it's upping the thermostat.
Yeah.
Well, till somebody says, it's a little warm in here, then you go down a
Sure.
degree. And to be sure to look at what lights are being left on at night, et cetera, et cetera. This is pretty good,
Yeah, that's very helpful.
very good.
Mhm.
But it's a brand new building. It cost $7 million and it should be good. But
But it all
this
starts
would-
with data. That's
Right.
that's
This
the
is
way to
Right.
go.
data
That's
and
very
it
helpful.
shows somebody, they can go, oh, look.
Then you can quantify it, right?
Exactly, exactly.
It's,
One of the things they could do here, it sounds really stupid, but they have, at the library, they have vending machines, right? The lights are always on. There's a switch you can buy that the
Yep.
light turns on when you walk up to
In
it.
my
and
building
when you
at work,
walk
that's
away,
what it
it
is.
goes away.
Wow, that's great.
It's not a big purchase and it's not a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, to Villanova's credit, you know, so for example, their main building, Tellentown, I was in there visiting recently, and it was a Saturday. I was just going to see what had happened to my campus, you know, in the meantime. And the lights were going on as I walked through. So they were all motion sensor, you know, and they turned off as soon as, you know, it got quiet again. So there's things that can be done. I don't know what the price of those things are, but there's tech out there that.
Well, and PECO's mandated to make a change. So PECO's offering incentives. So let's take this room. When Bob Sinkowski walks in this room in the morning on a sunny day, the shades go down and the lights come on. So one of the township needs to do is to unhook. And this was a $16 million building. And it's not.
It's not that old.
It's not that old. Needs a new roof and it's on its second HVAC system.
So I'm picturing, you know, like you were saying, start with the end in mind. You gotta do need to get going. But
Yes.
So I'm picturing a final briefing of this consultant to the township. You know, here's the baseline. Here's what you as a township spend on energy now.
Right.
Here's what it looks like with the baseline minus energy conservation. Now that's what your bill is.
Yeah.
Now, here's your bill with conservation plus renewable.
Right.
Which would you rather have? This is what you pay today, and this is what you could be paying.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Take a
Love
look.
it.
And we've gathered,
With non-recurring built in. Okay, this is what it would cost to.
and we have a
Efficient.
commitment from Bob, just Bob, but we have a commitment from Bob that every penny saved goes into a special fund for further improvements.
Wow, that's great.
He's committed to that. So we just, and we've gathered a lot of information for this consultant. We're doing a lot of the groundwork. This Steve Clark from Haverford Township, who will make the presentation, we hope the second meeting in September, the commissioners meeting on this building. Well, not Sulpicia is closed. So it'd be Public Works and this building. And I will send you, I have a spreadsheet from the township of what they pay annually for electricity. And it's amazing. I mean, every comfort station's got a light on, so there's a little electric bill. And some of them for the year are $11. But it was quite amazing to see it. So this building is really the first target because it's the biggest bite of the
Well,
apple.
and it sends a message.
And
right?
it sends
It's
a
the
message
flagship
to-
building of the township, and so if they can
Sends a
do it.
message to the taxpayers that we're doing everything we can. I think that that will bring people in.
Mhm.
But it's just getting the momentum going. So I will send you, I've made some notes and I will pull it all together.
Thank you
You
so
want to
much,
store
Sarah.
it on the zip drive, go ahead, wherever you want to put it, but we'll get it going. And I really appreciate you coming.
Sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
We've made big steps tonight.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
thank you for leading.